Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be continuing our series on designing your landscape. And today we are going to talk about some tips of mine that I am going to pass along to you, where I have learned from experience, some good, some bad. And so I want to impart that knowledge and give you a little bit of education to save you maybe from where I didn't know to save myself. So anyway, today we are going to look at a couple of things in the landscape, and I am going to show you some examples at a nursery. So I'm actually in the car headed to the nursery now, and we are going to pick up in my front yard where we are going to talk about the landscape design and how to put it together. As we think through designing the landscape, I am standing in front of another one of my beds. This is opposite the one that we are currently renovating and doing the design for. Well, I feel like it's important to teach you from my past experience, good and bad. This in front of me is more of the bad. And why do I say that? Okay, so just a little bit of context. We have a sloped lot. It is going downhill at a very sharp angle. It's kind of hard to tell from this video. I built a stone wall, and let me go around the side so you can see. All right, so as you can see, this is a steep slope, and this is looking from the side of my bed. Okay, this is the side of my house. And so I knew that I had to create a wall to make the plants even across the front. Otherwise, the plants would be at an angle. They would be going downhill. And I just didn't feel like that was going to look nice. So what we did is we planted on top of the wall, and then we planted in front of the wall. Well, you can't see that there are plants behind. These are loropetalum. This is what they should all look like. These are having to be pruned to be kept at the level where you can see through the window. These are the wrong plant for this location. Maybe the one on the end is okay. I love loropetalum. I'm not going to pull these out. I actually really like them. And so I want to show you why this is not the best. Behind here, there's a whole other row of plants. These are Cleyera. And so I have Cleyera here that are planted inside the wall. And then I have these monstrosities of the loropetalum. So you see, because the loropetalum have gotten so big, you can no longer see the Cleyera behind them. And so this is why I want to show you this. I want to talk with you about how to make sure you choose the right plant for your design. It is very important that you check the height requirement. Make sure that you do a lot of research if you don't know, because you don't want to have this same problem happen. It's not bad. This is not how it's supposed to look. It's supposed to be a 2D or a 3D design. And right now it is one-dimensional. There are hydrangeas in the front and a spirea. There's my sweet boy Kirby. And so I want to just make you aware of this. So how can we eliminate that happening on this side? Well, we want to make sure we have the proper plants for this location. We want to make sure whatever we have in the back, meaning against the house, we do not plant something in front of it that's going to grow as tall or taller. So you want to have your main shrubs and then sub-shrubs. Sub-shrubs would be, for example, over here. Sorry, I'm walking so much. An example of a sub-shrub would have been the loropetalum. The Cleyera is against the house and the wall. The loropetalum would be a sub-shrub, and then the hydrangeas would be another level. So I have a 3-dimensional planting. I took it a step farther and lost my mind. I had a Japanese maple in here. as well. I wish I had a picture to show you. It was the most gorgeous Japanese maple. As you can see, there's the trunk. Literally, when I tell you, literally, the thing took up this entire space. You could not see the window. It even reached the top of the overhang here, right up here. And just was so magical to look into the tree from our living room window. However, you could not see out, and it just was not a good fit. So this is why I tell you, make sure that you have the right plant for the right location and really think through what you do. This is why doing a landscape design is so important. That way you have the option of seeing what it's going to look like before you install your landscape. Okay, the next topic I want to discuss is the size of the plants you put in once you are ready to plant. So we already have our design done. Now we have gone to the nursery and we are picking out our plants. So how do you go about making sure you get the right plants, meaning the size? When you have a bed that has existing plants in it, meaning plants that have already been planted for some time, they are mature, they have grown in, you want to think long and hard about spending the extra money and getting a larger plant. Normally, landscape plants start at 1 gallon, 3 gallon, 7 gallon, 3 gallon, 5 gallon, 7 gallon, 10 gallon, 15 gallon, 20 gallon, 25 gallon, and then balled and burlapped. So when you have a plant bed that is existing like this one, and you go and buy your new plantings, what we're doing is the focal point here, and say I go and pick a 3 gallon plant, that is not a great option unless your budget restrains you from being able to purchase a bigger plant. You want to go ahead and give it a jump start and fill the space with something bigger. So if I go with the camellia, for example, I am going to the nursery and I am going to look for a 15 gallon to a 30 gallon. I didn't mention 30 gallon. I think I said 25, but I think it's 30. I am going to look for a very big plant to go ahead and fill in some of this space. When you plant, you do want to have a little bit bigger jump. It's something that's kind of when you plant a plant. Okay, so for example, this poor gardenia that my dog has used as his fire hydrant, I planted as a 3 gallon plant. Look how little that is in comparison to the bed. Do you see how out of place it feels and it looks? So what I would do is whatever I pull out, I want to make sure I get plants with some size. Now, if you are starting over your bed from scratch and you have nothing in the bed, it's a blank slate, go ahead and start small, or go ahead and start, whatever your budget is able to afford. But I do want to talk through with you and make you aware, there are other plants, there are bigger plants, and, if at all possible, I would recommend getting a bigger plant. Most of the time, the larger sized ones are a little bit more mature and older. Okay, so that's my next point. Be sure you put in plants, if you can afford it, that are larger than just your standard 1 gallon, 3 gallon. I am here at a local nursery in my town. It's called Down Home Nursery. It's cute. It's just a little nursery, but they have great plants. They have really nice quality plants. And so what I wanted to show you today is the difference between the different sizes of plants. And so as I'm talking through the 3 gallon, 5 gallon, 15 gallon, that sort of thing, I want you to see the difference between the container sizes and the plant sizes. So the small to the great big. All right. And so we're going to go and look at that. This place is pretty crowded, so it may be me videoing and then talking over it. But you'll see here in just a second. Here is an example of a 3 gallon Proven Winners Pierre's Japonica Lily of the Valley. You can see the size of the plants. They're beautiful. They're not super tall, but very nice in quality. This is an example of a 3 gallon. Okay, these are a 1 gallon. see beside the two. This is 3 gallon and 1 gallon Encore azalea. And here is an example of a 15 gallon. This is a tree. But you see the size of the caliper of the trunk. So it's a red maple. All right, and my last tip for you in planting your landscape and planning out your landscape design is to think between a deciduous plant like this hydrangea versus an evergreen like this gardenia, or we're walking again, sorry, or the loropetalum or cleara. Right, so let's look at why I want you to think through this. In the wintertime, I have continuous color. It's green here. It's actually a plum green color. In the wintertime, in this bed, if I were to plant deciduous plants, meaning plants that lose their leaves, I would have a big white space, and it's not very inviting. So I always say, make your back row, whatever you plant up against your foundation, against your house, evergreen. You have many different options. They aren't, just because it's evergreen doesn't mean it's green. It just means it doesn't lose its leaves. So it adds some color interest in the wintertime. So if you are in a climate that isn't tropical, you need to think through deciduous versus evergreen. My dog's crazy, sorry. She's grumbling and rolling. So the difference between an evergreen backdrop is this versus this in the winter. I hope that gives you a really good visual. Sorry to keep using my house, but being as we are renovating my landscape, I thought it would be important to teach you the tips that I think through, how I think through a design, which is laying out deciduous in the front, evergreen in the back. So what I always like to say is get your staple, your meat and potatoes, and put them against the house. And then your fun dessert, your appetizer, all the good stuff, the macaroni and cheese, the side dishes. See, I love food. Put those in the front. Put those in front of your staple plant. And so I hope that helps you to get a better understanding of how to think through laying your plants out. So you want to make sure you have the right plant for the right location. The size of the plant does matter. Making sure when you lay them out, you have a multi-level, multi-dimensional look, if that's what you desire. And if you do, making sure that the back is taller than the middle, is taller than the front. If that makes sense. My dog is crazy. So you don't have to prune it to keep it in its place like I am. It's a maintenance nightmare, and if you want maintenance free like most everybody does, or as maintenance free as possible, think through this, trust me. And then last is making sure that you have deciduous and evergreen sorted out, where you have a backdrop of green or plum or whatever color you choose of evergreen. And then in the front, making sure you have your decorative plants, your fun, your good stuff, your flowers. If you want annuals in the front, you can dapple them throughout or have designated spaces for those pockets of color. And you want to make sure that whatever you plant, you put as large of a size as you can afford. If you can go bigger, bigger is better in the landscape. If you are okay with plants having to grow into their space, that's fine. Go with a 1 or 3 or 5 gallon. Otherwise, if you can go bigger, go bigger. Now, obviously, something I wanted to add, if you get perennials, such as this pincushion flower, they're gonna come in 1 gallon, sometimes in a quart, and that's okay. What I'm talking about is your staple plants, your shrubs, not your perennials, not your flowers, okay? So I hope this helps you to understand a couple more options on and things to think through as you are designing your landscape. Take care, everybody.